Hello and welcome back for another flow in the Pigeon series. We are getting towards the end, and today's flow is going to incorporate various movements we've covered over the past weeks, but also the more recent additions, which were bridges, that gentle core engagement exercise called Candles, and the quick run through we did with three-legged dog, just for transitioning between certain things. So for today's practice, I would highly recommend something like yoga blocks and something like a yoga bolster, just for some extra support if needed. All right, let's get started. So today we're going to start off in a seated position. I highly encourage you to take your bolster or a blanket or one of your blocks to just sit on. We're going to start off sitting, cross-legged, legs out in front. In a chair is also totally fine. Just to take a moment to re-familiarize ourselves with that gentle core engagement. So we're going to revisit the candles exercise. So just a refresher, the idea is that you've taken in a breath of air and you're about to blow out candles through pursed lips, and you're trying to make that breath last as long as possible so that you can get as many of the candles in one breath as you can. And as you do that, you just notice the very natural way that the lower abdomen will gradually press inward in a very broad, flat way. Okay, so you can put your hands on your belly if you want. We're going to inhale and exhale. Inhale whenever you're ready to inhale, and exhale. Okay, we're going to do that one more time, and this time at the end of the exhale, just see if you can for a moment pause your breath and just maintain that same gentle inward movement of the core. Not that it's continuing to move, you're just holding it where it ended, just to kind of feel what that type of engaged core can feel like versus maybe what you've possibly tried in the past where you really just hunkered down through everything and created a lot of pressure in your abdominal cavity. Okay, so we're going to inhale, we're going to exhale, and at the end of the exhale, you're just going to, for a moment, pause your breathing and just maintain how your belly ended the exhale. And then just see if you can maintain that end result for a moment, and then let it all go and relax. Okay, we are now going to come to the mat on our hands and knees and get into a child's pose. So you can do a wide-legged child's pose with the toes touching in the back. You can have your legs together, whatever's more comfortable for you. You can have your arms out in front overhead. You can have your arms along your sides. We're just going to get into position and let our foreheads rest on the floor and allow our bodies to just sink down towards the mat, onto or in between our thighs. Now it's going to feel very different here in this child's pose position, in part because your hips are at more of an angle, your belly is in a different position relative to gravity, all that jazz. But See if you can find that candles exercise here in child's pose. So taking an inhale, feeling the back expand, the rib cage expand. And then as you exhale, exhale through pursed lips and just see what happens in your abdomen that is similar to what happened in seated. It's going to feel a little different, but the same general thing is happening. And again, at the end of that exhale, just let everything relax. Let that belly go. Inhale and exhale again, finding that gentle core engagement. All right, we are going to come up to our hands and knees. We're just going to spend a few moments here following your own breathing rate, playing around with some cats and cows. So inhaling to dip the back, raise the chest forward, exhaling to curl the back, coming into cat. Following your own breathing rate, you can hold one for a while if it's feeling really good. You can just smoothly move in and out of them if you prefer. Coming back into tabletop, let's bring right shoulder towards right hip, bit of a side bend. Switch to the other side. Come back to table. So we are going to just explore for a second again that breathing. Again, we're in a slightly different position. Gravity is still going to be a little more similar to how it was in child's pose. The belly is going to feel a little different, but we're going to take that inhale and then that pursed lip slow exhale. And see if you can find that low belly, broad across the front, upward in this situation, kind of movement towards your center. And then let it all go. Okay? So here we're going to play with some body rocking. So our backs are in a tabletop position, nice and flat back. Hips are stacked over knees, shoulders are stacked over wrists, and we are just going to rock our bum towards our heels and then come back. Now, this movement, the spine is kind of just a conduit between the shoulder and hip joints. The movement is coming from the shoulder and hip joints. Right now, both my shoulders and my hips are a little more flexed than they were before. Now I'm moving towards extension to come back to tabletop. Flexion, extension, and my spine is staying pretty straight. I'm not dipping and arching my back as I move through this movement. So just pay attention to what's happening in your body. Are you able to move your shoulders and hip joints in tandem in this way without your spine having to also get involved and get a little wiggly? If that's a struggle, just keep the movement smaller where it's easier to maintain that, okay? All right, once again, we're gonna come to tabletop. We're gonna find that gentle core engagement in that lower abdomen, and we're just going to have the toes curled under on the mat and gently lift the knees and then place them back down. So for a moment, more weight is going into your hands. You really need to be aware of the integrity through your elbows. They are straight but not locked. Shoulders are spacious. You're generating a pushing away from the floor through your arms. You're keeping your shoulders low out of your ears, and you're just hovering those knees for a moment and then placing them back down. hovering those knees for a moment and placing them back down, all while maintaining that 100 candles lower gentle core engagement. Okay, we're going to do that again. You can walk your hands a little bit forward. We're going to find that bear, and then we're going to body rock back into a downward dog. Okay, so gentle core engagement, hover the knees, body rock the bum back and up. You can walk it out here. So alternating heels towards the floor, knees alternating, bending and straightening. Now, your heels never need to touch the floor in a downward dog, and your knees never have to be straight in a downward dog. You're just going to find what feels available to you. Okay? We are going to lift that right foot into the air, come up high on the ball of the left foot, curve through that back as you're stepping the right foot forward, and we're going to come into a low lunge. So I'm going to drop this knee, and I'm actually going to grab my 2 blocks. And we are going to visit our low lunge and half splits. So you can let those toes, the top of your foot go flat to the floor. We're going to sink our weight forward, coming into that low lunge with the right leg in front, left leg in back. If you got it mixed up and you're on the opposite side, it's not a big deal. Just know that my rights and left cues might not match what you're doing, and that's totally fine. Walking the blocks back, coming into half split, coming up on the heel of that front foot. Pulling that right hip back slightly so that your pelvis is square to the mat. It's going to change the angle of the pull. Walking the blocks forward again, coming back into that low lunge. And you don't need to sink deeply into either of these right away. Just do what feels comfortable, and if with repetition you start to limber up, we're going to rock back into half splits again. If with repetition things start to limber up, you can certainly start to go a little deeper as you go. Okay, we're going to bring the blocks forward again, coming into our low lunge. We're going to set the blocks aside. We're going to bring the arms up into the air so the back is a little more upright, slightly extended. Arms are in the air. We're going to bring the left hand back down to the mat, and we are going to exhale the right fingertips towards the ceiling, bringing a spinal twist into this low lunge. Bring the right hand back down to the mat. We're going to scoot this right knee back down, and we are going to come back into our tabletop, taking a moment to revisit those cat and cows. Maybe a little bit of the side flexion from tabletop. Finding that gentle core engagement. Now that you know what it feels like at the bottom of that pursed lip breath, can you recreate it without it being a major clamp down? Especially in this position, it's a challenging position. Curl the toes under. We're going to body rock, so spine stays relatively neutral. Flexion and extension happening in tandem. And obviously your knees have to bend and unbend too, to accommodate this motion, but the driving force of the motion is the shoulders and the hip joints. Okay, while the toes are still curled under, we can walk our fingertips forward just a little bit, find that gentle core engagement, hover the knees, lower them down, hover the knees, lower them down. And this next time when we hover, we're going to body rock back into a downward dog. So hover, body rock, downward dog. Again, you can walk it out. Downward dog might feel a little bit different this time around. Okay, and when you're ready, we're going to inhale the left leg up. We're going to come high on the ball of the right foot. We're going to curve through our back, push through our arms, step that left foot forward. If you can't make the step through in one fell swoop, that's totally fine. It took me a long time to get as far as I have. We're going to lower that right knee, bring the blocks forward, sink into that low lunge with the left leg in front. There is no shame in just scooting and walking your feet forward through that lunge. It can take a while to get the coordination and the height needed to create enough space between the floor and your torso to let your leg pass through underneath you without bottoming out and hitting the floor. Okay, we're going to walk the blocks back, coming into a half split on this side. That's actually something that I would like to get to and cover in another series sometime, where I really break down and improve downward dogs. But that will be down the road. Okay, we're going to walk it forward into low lunge again. One more time, back into half splits. We're going to walk it forward, coming back to that low lunge, setting the blocks aside, bringing the arms up overhead. Right hand comes down to the mat, exhaling to sweep the left fingertips towards the ceiling. Left fingertips come back down. We're going to scoot that left leg back, coming back to our tabletop position. Again, you can go through some little cat-cows here at your own pace. You can go into a child's pose if you want. You can do some C-bends. Whatever your body might be craving right now is totally fine. Okay. Okay, we can do some body rocking, just to work on that coordination and control. All right, we are going to spend a little bit of bonus time kind of stretching the top of the ankle. So this isn't something that I've covered in one of the building blocks videos. This is just something that we're going to play with today. You can have some blocks nearby for your hands to rest on if you want. But basically what we're going to do, and this is of course dependent on if sitting like this in the first place is even comfortable for you. If it's not, I will show you an alternative. But what we're going to do is we're going to be sitting like this. We're going to send our weight back. And you can have your fingertips on the floor, or this might be where your blocks come in handy. And you can start by lifting one knee at a time. Okay, so the foot is pinned down on the floor. You're lifting your knee, so it's lifting that shin away from the floor, and you're gonna get probably a bit of a stretch down here. You might find that just sitting in this position, you feel a stretch. It might be too much, and you need to take a rolled up towel or blanket and put it under your ankles so that your ankles can remain a little bit in this position. You might be here and find that just leaning back a little bit is more than enough sensation happening along the fronts of those ankles. You may be able to tolerate the one knee at a time just fine. If that feels really, maybe not easy, but fine in your body, you can try coming up on both at the same time. And if you want, you can bring your hands to your thighs. Okay, but that's quite a more advanced version. I've given you a whole lot of ways that you can kind of pick your adventure. But that just starts to get that back leg prepared for being flat on the floor, right, in pigeon. Okay, let's come back up to our knees. And let's revisit camel. It's been a little bit since we've done camel. Now remember that you can have your legs like this on the floor with your ankles long on the floor, or you can curl your toes under, whatever feels more stable. And you might want to strip under your knees too. We're going to bring our hands to our low back, fingertips just down on the upper glutes. Bring your elbows towards the back of the room within reason. And we're just going to begin to look upward, introducing some spinal extension, just from a different angle than some of the ways we've done many times so far, like Sphinx and Seal and Cobra. Okay? And we can come out of that. All right. These last 3 positions that we're going to do are all pretty restorative and supported. We're going to do swan and child's pose. Now, swan is I want to say it's a yin version of, or a restorative version of, pigeon. In some of those other practices, they change the names of postures just to kind of represent a more long hold version. So swan, we're going to basically have our legs in a pigeon-like position. I welcome you to take a block to put underneath the bum cheek of the leg that's going to be the front leg, okay? So I'm going to start with my right leg in front, turned out. I've got my bum sitting up on the block. I'm going to lean forward and let the bolster take my torso and have my left leg straight out behind me, okay? So I'll show you this from a couple different angles, just so that you can see. So I'm going to take my block. My right leg is going to be the front leg in my pigeon kind of situation. I would have a bolster in front of me, and I would send my left leg straight out behind. And you can build that bolster up as high as you want to be as supported as you can be to be here for a while. So I'll show you this from this side too. So I've got the block ready for my right bum cheek. My right leg is the front bent leg. I'm leaning forward. I would have a bolster here in front of me. My left leg goes straight out behind, and I can hang out here for a while. Okay? Now, if those if those pigeon legs are still just not quite there for you, please turn this into a restorative deer pose, which I believe we did in one of the last videos, where again, we've got the one leg in front, like the pigeon leg, but instead of the back leg having to be straight out behind you, it's kind of off to the side, knee bent like this, okay? This is perfectly acceptable. Some people's hips just don't like pigeon, and this is what they do. Or they can still take that block under the right hip. Okay, so you've probably been in swan for a bit now. I'm just giving you some information for options, but we're just gonna hang out here for 3 more breaths, and then we're gonna switch sides. I'm just keeping my head up because of my microphone. You are welcome to completely let your on the block or the bolster. All right, you can use your hands to start walking yourself up. We're going to switch sides. So whatever props you need to make this more comfortable for you, please use them. Please use whatever variation of leg position works best for you too. Okay. All right, you can start to walk your hands up, help yourself get upright, and we are going to remove any blocks that were maybe under hips. We're going to keep our bolster nearby. We're going to come back into a wide-legged child's pose legs. Bring that bolster in between your knees, walking yourself forward. And we're just going to take a few moments here in a nice restorative child's pose. Right, so here from this child's pose, you're welcome to stay here for as long as you want to. Again, like I've typically said at the end of the other videos. But when you are ready to get up, just use your hands to walk yourself back up to your knees. Get yourself into a seated position. You can sit on that bolster like I am right now, and just take a moment to take stock, do a little body scan. Notice how things landed in your body. In the meantime, until next practice, feel free to revisit that building blocks video from last time. Three-legged dog, that gentle core engagement, they're tricky. And today we didn't cover any active bridges, but we will be doing that next time. So just maybe find some moments to practice that on your own. But otherwise, I will see you next time and have a great day.